Presentation for us.
I have a video, so we do a little show and tell.
All right, let's do it.
Good evening. My name is Robert Masson. I live at Eagle Crest Aerodrome. I live there because I actually run a couple of businesses in Delaware.
Okay. I need you to speak in that microphone. If
Yeah,
you don't,
somebody
that
yell
guy
at
in the
us.
back's going to yell at me again, okay? So you need to speak up, okay?
I picked, I've been living in Delaware for quite a while, but I've only been in Eagle Crest since about 2017. But I picked it because I could run my businesses in the state of Ohio and Delaware and Ocean City going back and forth. So I do go back and forth quite a bit. I'm not supposed to talk on this part, but they keep saying it's a little airport. It's the second largest airport after Georgetown in Sussex County, and it's the fifth largest in the state of Delaware. So we have a lot of traffic. A lot of it is business. It's not all personal stuff.
Not that we're all that known for our airports, but I'll take that as.
Hey, can I take one of these out?
Take the middle one out, and then, so we will need to hang on to that. So there's actually three in there at the moment. So.
I want to plug that thing in all the way.
And then we'll have to take another break to figure it out.
We'll switch that one out in a minute. So.
We didn't lose the whole thing.
Sorry.
I blew it. Pass it, we'll try.
Let me take, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yep, just let me join.
Mr. Whitehurst. Please turn the microphone for you. It's the PK, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And I don't want to show one of these unless you like it so much to show more. This is the departure. So if we start this, I'll just walk you through what it looks like taking off out of Eagle Crest, because it does go right over this
Nice.
this division. And it'll just give you a better feel for what's going on.
Sir, can you pull the mic?
This is it, my helicopter. We're just taking off. I'm trying to mimic what an airplane would do. So we're just now reaching Hudson. We're going to be about, 50 feet above here. We crossed the septic field here. Crossed the septic field, yeah. And now we're over an empty area, not the lot in question. The lot in question is coming up. It's this golden area here. But you can see I'm flying a straight trajectory off the runway. I'm climbing as an airplane would climb. Now, not every airplane climbs the same, and not every airplane climbs the same. Depends on the weather. So a smaller plane would be higher. A heavier plane, like we have a couple of twin-engine planes there, they'll be lower. On cold days, they'll be higher because the bite of the wing and the propeller is greater. On August days, they're going to be low. So it all varies, but I'm trying to mimic an average here. So I'm continuing straight. This is round Old Bridge Road here, I believe, and this is the development. So if I lost, stop it here. I lost my engine here. I got to make some quick decisions, both in a helicopter or in an airplane. To date, this has not been a big problem. There's open fields here. There'll be 249 homes here. That's 1,000 people. You figure 4 people per home. I have been, in my lifetime, president of an airport board. I've dealt with this in Ohio. I have been president of a zoning board of appeals, and I have been on city council. So I've seen this from multiple aspects here. So this is the problem right now. You lose your engine, you have to go down. It's called a catastrophic failure. It's rare. Of the 4 major causes of accidents in general aviation, mechanical failure is a distant fourth after fuel starvation and weather and other things. So, but it can happen, and so, okay, you can finish, sir. So we're still climbing here. We're still over homes. Maybe we have a little more height at this point where we can make a quick decision and get to the swampy area, the marsh. And that would be our hope. That would be our hope. Right? So I guess my point is that that the development, as originally presented to us, is unsafe for people. When I was president of an airport board, one time they wanted to put a soccer field in the green space off the end of the runway. And I said, what are you possibly thinking? Put a soccer field at the end of the runway. And they found another location. Another time, a friend of mine, a developer, sold 300 acres, and they put a couple of thousand homes there. There were 12,000 people in the development. And I was able to get the deed notifications because that's the other thing. Anybody here know Skip Jones of Atlantic Concrete? Did you ever see the sign he has outside his? Because I lived in those condos for a while. It says, "We're Atlantic Concrete. We've been here for 50 years, and we want to be here another 50 years." So besides the safety that we're talking about, we have the noise. And I've done decibel studies and everything with the EPA and everything, and they were all safe, but they annoy people. And in my development, we had 12,000 people going to live there. What are the odds of people starting to complain? So it was helpful that we put this deed notification in so that when they sign papers and money exchanges hands, they know the airport's there. Just like Skip Jones, this airport's been there 71 years. We'd like to be there another 71 years. Plus, there's a couple of us that make our living, going out in and out of it. There's a couple other businessmen on the airport that fly in and out. So the three things that I want to emphasize is that the safety, we've seen that. The deed notification, because it can be construed as a nuisance. One time I took a decibel meter to a neighbor who was complaining. We were talking, and the decibel level, it's like now, would be about 73 decibels. When the plane started to come over, and it was a small plane, typical would be at Eagle Crest, when it flew over at the normal pattern altitude, we all got quiet. The decibel level went down to about 55, the ambient noise, and when the plane flew over, it was 73. It was exactly the same as our normal conversation, but they perceived it as a nuisance. So that's going to happen, and that's the reason we've been working with the developer. And they have been good to work with, both on the safety zone, aligning, we don't have it there, aligning their green space in with the runway center line, and the deed notification. And the last thing that we're looking for is what's called an air easement, where trees can't grow up and become an obstruction to our flight path. So we've been working with the developer on the safety issue. We've been working on with the noise, and we're working on the air easement, and they've been nice to work with. I like them. We know them all by first name. But it goes back to that line you brought out, shall and consider. I also worked for the governor on the opioid crisis, and we wrote a lot of legislation. And we never had those two words together. The doctors on the medical board, they always wanted the word may, but the governor always wanted the word shall. You know what I mean? And this kind of thing. So as it's written and as it stands, it's unsafe and it doesn't assure good neighbors. But if we can get conditions where the safety is addressed and those deed notifications are done, we can be good neighbors.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
From a pilot standpoint, I'm assuming that you know what lots they're talking about removing for the clearance of the path.
Yeah.
Do they make sense to you?
Yes.
As a pilot? Okay.
Yes. No, they've been good to work with.
Okay.
The only thing hanging is being good to work with. Like Reagan said, trust but verify. Be good to have a lot of this in writing, but we don't.
But we can do that.
That is something we can help you with.
Yeah.
Okay, that is something we can help you with because we can, trust me, we can do the shall part.
Yeah, but I do.
That's what this whole process is about. So rest assured
Thanks for that.
if there is something of that nature that we feel needs to happen, it'll be a condition. It won't be an option.
We could be
It'll
good.
a condition.
We could be good neighbors, and they are good to work with. So, thank you.
Can I ask you a question
Yes.
just real quick? And it may be a stupid one, but, all the conversation we've been talking about is straight line flight. At what point does a pilot, either coming in or taking off, not stay in that straight line?
Okay.
You're assuming that they're in a straight line coming off the runway at the point that they go across
Yeah.
the boundary of this property. And I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
The rule of thumb, and there is a rule of thumb, and is 400 feet. In fact,
400 feet out or up?
400 feet elevation.
Okay.
Because the minute you turn your wings, the lift vector gets diminished because the wings aren't perpendicular to the earth anymore, so you're going to lose lift, and you don't want to lose any more lift. So you're in a high-performance type of climb, and 400 feet is the acceptable time. So like one of my planes is a very high-performance plane. It's a jet, and I'm not my autopilot won't even let me turn it on until I'm 400 feet above the ground. So I have to fly it by hand, maximum climb, 400 feet above the ground, I can activate autopilot. That's when your options come in. 400 to 500 feet above the ground, we have a decent glide. You can probably glide at 500 feet, you can probably glide 1,000 when your engine goes out.
And what height would you be, not in your performance plane, but most of the planes that come out of Eagle Crest, at what point would you be at 400 feet roughly on the ground?
Just past this development. Yeah, just
On
past
the
this
other
development.
side of it.
And the reason I know that is, there's another video where I do a landing, and what you do is that Broad Kill Bridge that they just replaced, we turn just outside of that, and as I turn in to line up, right there I'm at 500 feet, and that's right over this river right here. So right there I'm at 500 feet, and then I'm descending down to whatever, so.
Thanks.
that
Sorry
help?
for stealing your question.
Thank you.
No, that
Thank
was-
you.
That was a great
and
question.
You want me to leave that in, Ashley, for the?
So we'll need to hang on to that until at least tomorrow morning, because we need to put it in the record.
Okay, you're welcome to that. And I also put it in an email too, in my letter,
Yeah,
so
I saw
you can
it.
keep
I
that.
saw these videos last night on email.
I don't need it back. No, thank you.
All right, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? I see somebody's all teed up here and ready to go. Let's go. What's your name? You may have the floor.
Hi, I'm Sarah Esposito. I'm a resident at 28248 Round Pole Bridge Road. I'm also a professional engineer. I've worked as a consultant, I've worked at DENREC, and I currently work for DELDOT.
What's your area of discipline?
I am an environmental engineer, but I have a minor in civil engineering.
Okay,
I work in maintenance and operations
okay.
as a stormwater professional. If you can,
Just so we have it on the record, you're not speaking on DELDOT's behalf.
I am not speaking about, I accidentally brought my cup, and then I realized I probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm also addicted to water.
Out there and everybody
Yes,
gets it.
I am speaking on, as a resident of Round Pole Bridge Road. All right. Get my bearings here. All right. To start you off with some statistics, a lot of you have already discovered this. It's about a 600% increase of the number of homes on our roadway. There's currently around 40 homes. Those homes, there's only 2 that are less than 1 acre in size. The rest range on average between 2 to 5 acres. The proposed subdivision is pulling its sanitary sewer off of Route 1, but the only entrance will be on our Tar and Ship Road. That's very rural, and we'll get into more of that. The traffic on Round Pole Bridge Road is going to have an 800% increase. And there's 2 past subdivisions that we'll call reference to as we continue on. The Meadows at Beaver Creek, which is one of the lots that I reside in, went from 47 to 20,000 square foot lots down to 7 5-acre lots, which fit in character of the roadway. And the Lock Haven subdivision was recently denied, and that was for a 25-lot subdivision, and it was denied for several reasons. Many of them were because of the proximity to the tidal Beaver Dam Creek, inclusion of lots near wetlands and floodplains, and the location on the rural road. So I implore you to make reference to that docket for that denial and use similar reasons here. Calling out some of those specifics, Lock Haven was denied because of its consideration of safe vehicular movement to adjacent ways, and called upon Section 99-9C 15, which requires consideration of the effect on area roadways. I will get into a lengthy topic about that in a bit, not lengthy, concise topic about that. It also, Lock Haven was denied due to its integration of proposed subdivision into the existing terrain and surrounding landscape. I already pointed out that most of the homes on Round Pole are farmette type properties. Lock Haven was also denied because of its use of wetlands and floodplains adjacent to lots and within lots. There are over 30 homes. Actually, depending on the site plan you look at, I referenced the previous site plan that I think a lot of you were also referencing. I think if you look at the current, most recent site plan, there's closer to 50 homes that are located within floodplain areas. Lock Haven was also denied because of the consideration of preservation of open space and scenic views. The Twin Mast subdivision has lots and a clubhouse located in the wooded tidal floodplain areas. Again, the amenity area has now been relocated, but the initial application did have the clubhouse in the floodplain. And now
You're getting pretty far down into
Okay.
the weeds.
All right. We will look at it.
We know,
Okay.
we know why we turned that
All
down.
right, moving on. I'll give you something new. So the roadway Star and Chip, it averages 18 feet width. That is a picture in front of my house. I didn't do the blow up, but I did not lie. It's 18 feet on the dot with crumbling edges. Most cars have to move way to the edges in order to pass each other. There are 5 90-degree bends on the roadway. In the last, Mr. Erickson pointed out that in the last 3 years, there's only been 4 accidents, and most of them involved animals. If you go back to 2017, since then, there have been 4 specific rollover concerns, and each has been at a bend location, plus a hefty slew of animals as well. There have not been any head-on collisions yet, but that is with 291 cars on the roadway, not an additional 2,000 cars on the road. So we are grateful that there have not been any head-on currently. There is no speed limit posted on the roadway, therefore it is presumed to be 50 miles an hour. I know Mr. Erickson acknowledged that they did a speed recording in front of the development that is close to the entrance with Hudson Road. Therefore, cars haven't picked up speed, but trust me, they go fast down the roadway. As you know, there's a lot of people that just joyride down our road, and they go as fast through those curves as they can. And then the bridge also frequently floods, and there's a picture of, it has been worse than that, but I would say that's its normal kind of flood stage when it does flood, that picture in the top right there. And we have a lot of farm equipment using the roadway that occupy the full width of the road as well. So obviously Lock Haven was denied for 25 lots. This is for 249. And the ADT is going to increase by over 800% because of those cars on the road. Tar and chip roads are only for ADT of less than 500. So Round Pole is currently 291. And once a roadway exceeds 500 ADT, it needs to be transferred to an asphalt road. The average cost for tar and chip for DelDOT is $17,000 per mile. The average cost for DelDOT to put down an asphalt road is $225,000. That's a 13% increase, which is going to be triggered by the subdivision. So it's about 3 miles from the entrance down to Cave Neck Road. If you multiply those costs out, it costs over $1 million for DelDOT to put down an asphalt road along that stretch, whereas currently as tar and chip, it's only $100,000. So that's
That's 13 times, not 13%. but that's okay.
Sorry.
We get the gist.
Okay.
Okay, we get it.
Lot to cover
It's all good.
when you're working and also
I
mom.
get it, no problem.
I did not do any of this at work. It was all outside work.
Like I said, you're pretty far down the weeds, so I'm going to ask you to
All
kind
right.
of summarize, okay?
Well, this next point I would like to highlight is that, yes, DelDOT did give the breakdowns out of the entrance, and it was approved at 16% heading towards Cave Neck Road. I believe that is very low, and because of that low average, that Cave Neck Road intersection did not have to be looked at. The DelDOT model, and I did talk to our staff that does modeling, and a retired gentleman that was Mr. Brockenbrow, who you've probably heard of in the past. Him and I had a conversation, and the model really looks at jobs and where people are going for jobs. DelDOT employees can tweak that. It's a first crack, and then they can tweak it. But it often does not get tweaked. They have a lot of subdivisions that they're looking at. So that model does not factor in that the elementary school and the middle school are that direction from the entrance. It does not factor in all the library, the nearest grocery store, medical offices, recreational, the Milton Parade that I'll be going to on Sunday. That is all that direction. And if you if this moves on. Do you know why it's not moving? There we go. If you MapQuest out or Google Maps out of the entrance, it takes you down that long ways. It's 2 miles shorter to go the long way. It's not really the long way, it's shorter, but that scenic route down around Pool Bridge Road to get to Cave Neck. The other, going down Hudson to Cave Neck, is the same amount of time, but it's 2 miles longer. People are going to go the shorter way. They're going to go the scenic route. They're going to go their road. I polled a lot of our residents, and we started keeping logs. Most people average between 25 and 40% going that direction towards Milton. My neighbor, she has 4 kids that are all in schools, in elementary and middle schools. She's going that way closer to 60% of the time, dropping kids off, picking them up from sports. It's much higher than 16%. I can guarantee it. They're going to go that direction.
We got it.
Okay. And they're going to avoid Route 1. You're not going to be able to turn north anyways on Route 1, and they're going to avoid a roundabout down at Cave Neck. They're going to travel down their road. And here are all the 5 90-degree bends that are not being analyzed because the Cave Neck Road intersection was not analyzed because that 16% of traffic did not trigger that intersection. Other people are going to speak on behalf of the cluster development, but I just wanted to highlight that I do not feel that it is a superior site plan design. They are cutting down significant trees and putting a lot of roads and lots within the floodplain. So these are some pictures of the trees removed in green and the floodplain areas with lots contained within it. Again, this is the older site plan, but it's very similar, between the two. They just flopped where the amenity center is going to go. So those are trees to be removed, lots within the floodplain, trees to be removed, trees to be removed, and then this large section of trees to be removed. How is that a superior site plan? They just took it right to the property boundary and went as far as they could. So I appreciate your time, and I hope you consider the Lock Haven denial and the comments there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to the next person, could I ask, DelDOT to come forward? Sure. One of the DelDOT representatives. Thanks. You can have a seat. I know you work for DelDOT. You're not wearing your DelDOT.
You're not the one we're looking for.
Yeah, come on. So I'm curious, we heard another person who works for DelDOT, not wearing her DelDOT hat, tell us that the models that are so often relied upon aren't really accurate because they're based on jobs, not maybe actually traffic, or taking into account such things as elementary schools, middle schools, people going to the grocery store, or just driving somewhere. I would like you to respond to that.
Generally speaking, the models do account for job locations. Employment by place of work is definitely one of the inputs that we consider.
What are some of the other inputs?
It's population, dwelling units, and jobs by place of work, and 10 different categories of jobs.
So in Sussex County, when we have such a large second home community and retirement community, where jobs maybe aren't the most predominant factor of a person driving from point A to point B, how accurate is that modeling in Sussex County?
We have a whole variety of trip generation rates that basically convert population, housing, and jobs into trips by different trip purposes. Those vary considerably by county in Delaware. We have a process with the University of Delaware where we do a travel survey to gather that information throughout the state. We've been doing that since 1997. Again, the specific chart was developed by our development coordination team, which is a different team than I work in. So they use a version of the model that's generated in our team, but they apply it slightly differently for the specific purpose of a traffic impact study.
I'm not sure that answered my question, but it sort of did, so thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks, Mr. Wheatley.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You're good. Before we go on, Mr. Erickson, it's been suggested that your plan is not superior. So I believe that superior has a definition in our code. Is that right?
Well, there's standards that say this is what superior can be.
Yeah. Can you tell us what is superior, what the superior design elements are of your plan?
Sure. I believe more or less is all right in here.
Okay.
Cluster
I would like you to put it on the record for us, please.
Okay. Okay, so the proposed cluster development is superior in design to a standard subdivision, as the project proposes significant amounts of open space, landscape buffers to protect environmentally sensitive areas on the site, including federal, tidal, and non-tidal wetlands, and a stormwater management system that will act as an amenity and natural companion to the natural features on the site. This plan provides for amenities, including a pool and bathhouse and sidewalks to connect to the proposed DelDOT multimodal path along Round Pole Bridge Road.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I saw that in the book. But like the buffers of the stormwater management, how's that any different than a standard subdivision? I mean, it would be helpful to have that distinction, because you have to do the buffer in a standard and you have to do stormwater management in a standard. So what's the difference?
Sure. From a buffer standpoint, we were able to create a larger buffer. I mean, you saw what we did up there. It's well beyond the minimum. I don't see how you can say that's not superior. With the cluster, we were able to do that.
I'm not saying it's not. We just want you to say
I
it
understand. I understand. No, I apologize. My tone did not mean to come off that way.
And why it is.
Right.
And I think you just said that.
Sure. Okay. That's
Okay.
All right, who's next? Here, this guy's been waiting for a while.
I'll try to keep it to the point, not be repetitive.
Yeah, let's be mindful of the comments that have already been made and try not to be too repetitive.
That guy down at the end.
I need to get one each.
We'll pass it down.
I've only got 6 here.
All right, not a problem. Well, we can share.
Sure.
6 is plenty.
I've got it.
6 more than we usually get.
Thank you. My name is Jeff King. I'm a homeowner at Eagle Crest Aerodrome. I'm a small business owner and a pilot, and I actually moved here specifically to live at the airport. I had the flexibility of my business to be able to do that, and it's the lifestyle I wanted. I really like Delaware. I've served on 2 airport boards, one that managed over $30 million in assets. I'm also a what's called an ASN of a trade group called AOPA that deals with aviation safety. I'm not here representing them today, but they did file comments and public comment regarding safety and noise issues you might want to look at. I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. I've appeared here before a couple months ago, actually in the fall, regarding incompatible use. We were trying to work with a map to show airports, noises, and so forth. I didn't expect to be back so soon, though.
You're invited to come every 2 weeks.
Much as I love you. I did want to talk a little bit about, it came up a couple times, the aeronautical study that was done. Mr. Whitehouse mentioned it, and I believe the engineer mentioned it as well. The determination, I'm just going to read a few quotes, I'll keep it brief. The determination of no hazard to air navigation, let me stop. I emailed the FAA, and I asked them, what exactly does this mean? What does this determination of no hazard to air navigation means? Well, it only applies to public use airports. It looked like it applied to Eagle Crest because Eagle Crest was on the map, but it did not apply to Eagle Crest. They went on to say, which I found interesting because I really didn't even ask this, and again, I'll keep this brief. The FAA engineer saying, I concur that the site is off the extended center line, the runway, of Eagle Crest Hudson Airport. They went on to say that the private use airport is a matter for a local city or municipality as a land use authority. So they're saying they're not going to touch it, but they're also not saying that that someone shouldn't be responsible for where airports go and what's around them for incompatible use. And they concluded with, it stands to reason that if a municipality permitted the airport, it would offer some protections, but that would be up to the land use authority. As you recall, in 2018, this group, or the members of this group previous, issued a non-conforming use, grandfathering Hudson Fields and Hudson Fields Airport. I think that comes with a little bit of responsibility, with all due respect, to respect the airport environment and what's around us. I did want to touch on a few things here that I heard in the testimony. We aren't a half a mile away. We're 1,600 feet away. The end of the runway is 1,600 feet away from the development. The Statue of Liberty is 305 feet tall. It's not 200 feet or 120 feet. The FAA. Excuse me? Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm flying and I'm 310 feet, I'm not going to hit the mask. If I'm 300 feet, I'm going to hit it. Whoops, sorry. Now, it was said a couple times that the FAA doesn't manage or there's no laws on private airports. That's true. However, the FAA has what's called an advisory circle, and they include private airports in there with recommendations for safety in the airport environment. It's called AC 150, 5140-4B. So I wanted to bring that up. The other thing, the developer is working with us. We're making progress, but our first meeting with them was on Tuesday of this week. Safety is something you don't want to rush. This is going to cause us problems for years, the noise, the safety, and we don't want to rush this. And by the way, we weren't notified of this at all. Neither the Hudsons, as I understand, or our associates were notified of this going in. We found out from environmentalists that this was going in. And last, I want to talk about one of the engineer was showing a map of what's south of the airport. He didn't mention there's an air easement over the property directly south of us, 700-foot air easement. That's why it's clear. Between that easement and the Poinier, I'm new to here, so bear with me. Samuel Poinier subdivision where that diner's at, if you know what I'm talking about. It's low density between there, and then the Samuel Poinier subdivision has 1,000-foot strip.
Painter's Mill?
I'm sorry, Painters, you see, I don't know what I'm doing. And you, by the way, that was a good catch. I thought that language was soft also. In any case, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I'm not used to this. In any case, they have over 1,000-foot straight, very wide center, right down the center that lines up with our runway perfectly. Those are the kind of things that we want to look for. You know, we want options, and you have to plan for safety. That's really all I had. We shouldn't rush this, and you know, we need to think this through. We're making progress, but we need to really think this through. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, who's next? Sure, yeah, come on up here. You'll all get your chance, don't worry. Everybody's going to get their chance. Huh?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Siemens. I'm a resident of Milton and a citizen of Sussex County. I'm a retired registered landscape architect and land planner. I've worked for the Newcastle County Department of Planning, 2 consulting civil engineering firms, and a private family-owned builder and developer. I've worked 42 years in this business, and I've designed many land plans for new communities. And I want to address the chairman's question, which is, I believe, one of the most important questions asked in this room tonight on this application, about whether or not this plan qualifies as a superior cluster subdivision. I'm here today to say that, in my opinion, this current twin mast preliminary plan is an imposter, pretending to be a superior cluster subdivision plan. I will give you my top 5 reasons.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you got to laugh, get out in the lobby and laugh. Don't do it in here. Let this man give his presentation. Let us hear it, okay?
I will give you my top 5 reasons why I believe this to be true. Number 1, almost 60% of the woodlands on this property are planned to be removed. The applicant said that 41% would remain, so there's my 60% gone. What, may I ask, is superior about that? The cluster ordinance reads, quote, homes shall be clustered on the environmentally suitable portions of the tract, specifically those portions of the tract least encumbered by sensitive environmental features, including but not limited to wetlands, mature woodlands, waterways, and other water bodies, end quote. And then the final sentence, this does not inhibit the development of wooded parcels. Wow. I can't wait for a Chancery Court judge or a Superior Court judge to get a hold of that paragraph and the last sentence. Why even bother to ask the developer's engineer to even show the existing woodlands if they are given no protection at all? Number 2, the States Plus report states that 30 lots and the entire amenity area is shown within the 100-year floodplain. Please, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, please tell me what is superior about that. Avoiding development in a 100-year floodplain has been standard land planning procedure for decades all over this country. But I guess not here in coastal Sussex County, that has been ravaged by past hurricanes and nor'easters. Number 3, I ask you, the land plan is in front of you. Do you look at this plan and perceive a superior road layout? No. It is essentially a grid layout with 2 cul-de-sac appendages, with the exception of 2 short sections of street, totaling about 700 linear feet. Every street is double-loaded with lots. There are almost no streets with single-loaded lots where you would have, in a superior plan, perhaps a view across the street to a beautiful neighborhood green, or perhaps a community park. No, just ordinary double-loaded streets, except for just 2 small segments. There is nothing superior about this street layout. Number 4, and I only have 2 more to go. How about the lot layout? Do you believe that the lot layout is superior? Look at the plan. Out of 249 proposed lots, 107 back to stormwater management ponds. And unless the developer intends to drill ag wells to keep them filled, you will have future droughts, and you will have drawdown, exposure of muddy banks, algae, and waterfowl problems. In addition to those 107, you have 13 lots backing to Route 1, and you have 16 lots that back to other lots, but for tiny, thin strips of open space in between. That is 136 lots out of 249. Almost 55% of the lots in this community that are far from Superior. Oh, did I forget to mention that 6 lots surround the sanitary sewer pumping station? If you lived in one of these lots, would you consider this plan superior? And finally, number 5, the cluster ordinance clearly states that there is a sequence and a process that should be followed. In fact, the ordinance says shall. We've talked about that word earlier this evening. Shall. Doesn't say may. That process says that the applicant should identify lands that should be preserved, then identify developable areas. It is very clear, but the number of plans that have come before this body, including this one, have made a mockery out of your own language in your own zoning code. You are allowing your own zoning code to be perverted by allowing developers to thumb their nose at your own code. And instead of a real AR-1 density plan to establish the maximum lot count, you have allowed only simple math to establish that all-important number. As a result, this plan and others before it have disregarded the natural environment, and the code states, quote, the cluster development plan will preserve the natural environment. And as a result, the landscape is now covered with this project and others with 7,500 square foot lots that can be as narrow as 60 feet wide. And we are told that these plans are superior. This plan should be denied and reworked according to the cluster ordinance's actual language. Thank you very much.
All right, sir, we thank you. Okay, let's see. I guess we'll go right over here with this gentleman here with the hat. And we'll come back to this side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Christian Hudson. I live in Lewis, Delaware. I'm here on behalf of Hudson Family LLC, Eagle Crest Aerodrome, and Hudson Homestead. We do business as the Eagle Crest Aerodrome and Hudson Fields. I want to be clear, I don't oppose the site, the tax parcels, or the overall land use of a cluster subdivision, just the site plan and the current iteration of it. I'm not going to read this. I've got mostly exhibits for the record. We have 2 main bullet points that I'd like to get into. In the offered proposed conditions of approval, I just got this when I got in here tonight. I learned about this last week when I was on vacation, this application, so not had a chance to meet with anybody yet. Just met with Mackenzie here before the meeting, and then literally just received this. So I haven't had time to digest it, but conditions that they've proffered, O and P specifically. O, I do like how it says the agricultural use protection notice, and then a similar notice advising nearby property owners of hunting activities. And then P, on these individual lots, we'd like to have those amended, as Mr. Robertson pointed out, about the shall versus consider, et cetera. But what we'd specifically like is the HOA or POA restrictions of any property owners association, both, quote, acknowledge and affirm the pre-existing lawful nonconforming uses of Hudson Fields properties, as defined in the Sussex County Board of Adjustment, August 7th, 2018, notice of decision, which we had recorded under, bear with me so I can read this into the record real quick. Sussex County Deed Book 1614, page 194, et cetera. So as to preserve the property rights of the airport and the special event venue. The second thing would be that the design of the Twin Mast property be revised to eliminate dwellings that might be otherwise located within the flight path. As you heard the testimony about the clear approach for the aircraft on takeoff and landing from the Eaglecrest Aerodrome. The developer, I understand, has offered these lots. I've not seen where these lots are. The only copy I was able to see of the site plan was the other one. So just opposed to this, notwithstanding, reviewing that. But again, just no contact with the developer or development team. Would like a chance to go through those and make sure that those site plans and then this notice. I wanted to commend this commission specifically. As you all no doubt remember, we were here, and for this very reason, this situation would not have occurred had the county council actually gone by your unanimous recommendation on October 13th, 2022 for our application to put this airport, second busiest in the state of Delaware, on the comprehensive land plan. I understand the developer is now in some unfortunate reality as a direct consequence of that, and unfortunately there may be unnecessary delays or something like that. If the developer does incur loss and file suit, it's my sincere hope that the taxpayers of Sussex County will not be on hook for the grave mistake of those three individuals on the Sussex County Council who, in their infinite wisdom, decided to reject your unanimous recommendation for approval of that motion 533-22 on November 15th, 22, that Councilman Schaefer, which I believe was a very common sense motion and agreed with your unanimous recommendation. So with that, I thank you for your time, and if there's no more questions, I'll be out.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir, right here. Been waiting a long time. Come on up here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a chance to weigh in on this proposed subdivision. My name is Al Rizzo. I live on Deep Branch Road. I'm a native Delawarean, so I consider myself to be an endangered species. I've lived in Sussex County for 38 years, started my career with the Sussex Conservation District, working with stormwater and management. I'm a certified professional soil scientist at the national level, and I also hold a Class D license at the state level as a site evaluator. I finished my career with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service of 28 years, working with private landowners, establishing habitat, primarily the agricultural community, and finished my last stint of 8 years as project leader for Bombay Hook and Prime Hook National Wildlife Refuges. So I feel I have a little bit of credibility when it comes to speaking about the soils. Thank you, Ed Linné, for giving a nice rundown on the soil series that are mapped there, the Rosedale, the Henlopen, and the Fort Mott. Highly permeable soils, and therefore the Delaware Geological Survey has deemed at least almost a third of the site as extremely good for groundwater recharge. And we have very short infiltration and return pathways to the Broadkill River. So I don't want to beat a dead horse in terms of what constitutes superior, but realistically, when you're removing 60% of the forest lands from a wildlife perspective, if you read the PLUS review, I think they did a pretty nice job summarizing the loss of that habitat, displacement of wildlife, increasing the number of vehicle collisions with white-tailed deer, if you will. But then one of the more important aspects of the site, natural resource features, is placing roads and houses over top of the largest recharge area in the area. And that mainly is that southeastern corner where they're going to propose to eliminate 7 acres of mature forest okay, for houses and roads, and supplement a 30-foot wide landscape buffer in lieu of that. Okay, so I love the idea of the iterative approach. So hopefully based on comments they've heard from the public, not just the airport folks, but other people who live here, who question what constitutes superior, loss of forest land, loss of views, and impact on wildlife habitat, is this doesn't do it as far as being superior. So with that, I'll close, because I can see you're just like, I'm done. I've heard it all. But I thank you very much for your time.
We're far from done, and we appreciate your comments.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're far from done. Okay, over on this side. Yes, sir, with the blue shirt. Come on up. Tell us who you are and tell us something different, okay?
Well, I wish I could, and you may hear.
Your comments are going to be short, because
they will be. Like me, they'll be very short. Okay. I'm John Chertia. I live on Eagle Crest Road in the Eagle Crest Aerodrome. I'm a pilot and the president of the Homeowners Association. And you all have seen us. We've all seen you, and you've seen us before. And we've been here a couple months ago, and Christian talked about it. And I had made a comment when, in that hearing, you were comparing about 15 different private airports in Sussex County. And I made the comment at that time that I thought, and still think, that Eagle Crest Aerodrome is a diamond in a bowl of glass beads. And we want to see it stay that way. We've talked to the developer, we've talked to the engineer and the attorney, and I think we can reach agreement of how we can get a clear sight path through that subdivision. That's what we're asking for. So we hope you will consider that. We're concerned about the noise, the safety, and the homeowner documents that will go in place to protect us and you and the council in the future. So all I can say is thank you for your time, and let's keep the diamond shining.
All right. Keep the diamond shining. Okay, who's next? Yes, ma'am, on this side right here. Who's left over here on this side? Okay, you're going to be next, sir. Okay.
Hello, my name's Heather Kingery. I live in Georgetown. I was raised in Western Sussex, and I've lived on Round Polebridge Road, and my mother still lives there, so I'm very familiar with the traffic and the character of the area as well. I have a quick question before I get started on what I was going to present, which is if a pilot could answer this question. Looking at this particular plan that's on the screen, could you show me where the flight path would go? Because as I heard from the developers person, they had listed maybe 5 lots, and I just can't conceive how 5 lots would take care of creating a clear path.
Well, I'm going to let this gentleman come up and point at the map for you.
Can you come to the front map?
Come to the front here if you would, so it's around here. Point to this big one here.
I'm using my arm. I think the center line goes like this. They did, before they even met with us, make an effort to put their green space in that line. So the homes that need to be moved, and there's another draft of this that shows them moved, most of them would be this one, these 3 or 4, and maybe these 3 here. So that then would align this with no people in the way. It did work out.
Okay.
We were happy as pilots. He has the biggest plane, and even he thought he could land.
Well, I did, but there's another
Okay,
line.
whoa. No, it's not a town hall. Okay, it's not a town hall.
Yes, for a pilot,
You need-
correcting him.
Okay, well, I'll do the asking, okay? So, all right. Okay, you go ahead now. I think you've got your answer.
I did, thank you.
Great.
Okay, so across all of the different documents that I've looked at, past precedents from other decisions, across your code, across the comprehensive plan, the PLUS report, all of these documents show an effort to be able to preserve the natural environment, to minimize the impact on our natural environment. And so we really appreciate that is what you're trying to accomplish. And I really want to But what you'll also see across all these documents is that this development should be denied. And so if you look at what a cluster development is, I think it's being really misunderstood what a cluster development is. I believe from your wording that the cluster development is an effort to be able to fit a lot of homes into a smaller tract of land in order to preserve what should be preserved, as the code says. So you see it time and time again, and obviously you don't have time for me to reference this in all of these documents, but that is what is the intent. And the very first step is in your code to map out where these protected areas are, mature forest, recharge areas, all of these areas. And I am, a novice, but I ended up creating this, which unfortunately I only have one copy of.
If you could give it down the other way. He has the stamps that go.
Thank you.
So in my novice experience, that's what I started with was, okay, let's look at these areas. So I mapped out from their application, they had all these documents. They had the, where the tree lines were, which I happen to know that these are mature forests on this property, as is outlined in the PLUS report. And then looked at where the floodplains are, looked at where the water recharge areas are, all these things that they submitted. I layered them, and what I came up with was using this site plan that they have, I created perimeters where those would be. And in the middle, you have this tract of land, which in my assumption would probably be the 79 acres.
Excuse me, are you telling me you just redesigned the site and so on?
No, I used Photoshop. I do design layout work for a living. So I
really
used.
Don't have time for that tonight. You've put your concern on the record. I would encourage you to continue pursuing a career in site design. You probably need some type of license to do that. And you've submitted it into the record, and we appreciate that. Okay.
I'm sorry, I think there must be a misunderstanding. I'm not trying to redesign it. I used their pictures, and I marked off the areas.
Is that the same as the drawing that you just handed up to Mr. Whitehouse?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I think what she's...
I understand what she's telling me.
I didn't design anything. And,
you just drew some lines.
I just drew some lines so that you could see what I see as the absurdity of how many properties and homes are within the areas that should have been the potential development area. And that's what this exhibit is titled, Misuse of Potential Development Area, because the code says what that is, and it says that in the cluster development, it's a deviation from what's standard. Okay. And so in order to preserve, and that's the element that's been missed by this group, is that they're not preserving. The other thing that I'd like to bring attention to, and they did not follow the code. They didn't follow the very first step, which is to mark out what these areas are. They just decided, where can we fit a bunch of homes? And along the way, they found they could fit 4 more homes in as well. So they're misusing what the intent of the code was. The other thing that I would like to, so what that ends up with, if you look at that diagram, is what I see as being 98 lots that should not have been in there. So you'll see them to the right-hand side and to the left-hand side in those margins. Regardless of the misuse of this potential, and even if you knock this down to the 151 homes that would fit into that actual potential area, which would be the 79 acres probably. I don't know what the scale of everything is, but he said there's open farmland in the middle that's 79 acres. That's probably what they're actually working with. So regardless of if you cut it down to 151 homes, this is still not viable for this location. It's not safe, as you've seen from what we've discussed as far as the traffic. But I really felt that it was imperative to bring this to your attention because this is the very first step. And to me, it shows the greed that's going along with this development plan and the lack of following the process and the procedure that's been outlined. So I thought that was important to bring to your attention. There have been a lot of poignant arguments that have been brought forth, and I wanted to, as someone who's familiar with this area, say that, yes, I definitely, and I'm on the end, the house that's closest tucked into the subdevelopment is the house that I've lived in and where I'm familiar that my mother still lives, that most of the time, I go right out of that drive, down the length of Round Pole Bridge Road. So I'm someone who's familiar with that, who knows that that's my experience. And when Sarah discussed the cost comparison of asphalt versus tar and chip, I think it's really important to remember this is level 4, which the team here has said, oh, that doesn't really matter for this. It does matter. It matters because it's going to cost money in the long run, and you can see that in a few different areas. And You know this should, you already know that it should be denied based on the precedence that's been set for other development on this same road, which was far fewer homes. And there were other subdivisions that were put forth by this team. They said, oh, well, there's all these other big subdivisions. They are not on Round Pole Bridge Road. They are not in the same character. It's a whole different ballgame on this road. And then I'll come back to the fact that in all of these documents, there is this effort to be mindful of the environment, to be cautious to minimize the impacts. And I really thank you for that. We're so grateful that that is the intent of this commission, and we love seeing that. But a lot of this gets lost in the rush to develop, and these things can be pushed through. And one of the reasons it gets pushed through is because if you read through this application, you're going to see, yes, yes, yes. Oh, yes, we comply with the comp plan. Oh, yes, we comply with the code protection. Oh, yes, we consider the mature woods and floodplains. You'll see this also in those who present it to you tonight. Oh, yes, oh, yes. From Mr. Erickson, he said yes, yes, yes. In the same well, he said that it goes well beyond the minimum requirements, and that he doesn't see how you could see it as not superior. He says that the trees in the most sensitive areas will remain. Well, that area over there that's clear cutting is the most sensitive area. That's where the excellent water recharge area that shouldn't be touched is. The buffer to protect drainage behind Round Pole Bridge Road in Hudson, behind the existing homes. He also claimed that that was going to be protected for drainage. That's the clear-cut area. Open space contiguous, he said, which those blocked behind people, their view of their ponds doesn't seem very contiguous to me. It also says in the plans not to have long, thin tracks, and they're counting all that buffer border area as part of the open space. So you will find a lot of this yes mamming, as I like to call it, when you just want to say yes, 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 in order to try to placate and to just get it pushed through. And so you're going to see in the application that there are claims. The developer has taken great effort to utilize the additional land as open space, minimal use of wetlands and floodplains, preservation of natural historic features, preservation of open space and scenic views, large tracts of open space being preserved, including wooded areas, buffers, and flood zones. Interconnected open space, compatibility with other lands. You're going to see being compatible in density, home style, land use. Conservation. The proposed community complies with the conservation. You'll see a whole list of how it matches the comp plan for conservation. Community design, a whole list of points of how it meets the community design within the comp plan. And also in their application, the conclusion says, the proposed community of Twin Mast will enhance the area with a well-planned design, upscale homes and amenities, and limited impact on the land. The design preserves large amounts of open space while preserving attractive views within the community. The proposed community of Twin Mast meets the standards set forth by the county and state and will provide a superior living environment for future residents without placing a burden on county, state, and taxpayers to serve this community. And in response to the PLUS report in their application, the design has largely limited encroachment on the environmentally sensitive areas of the site as feasible, providing buffers and considerations beyond the minimum county requirements. And nicely put, this is preposterous. This is blatantly false, these claims, as you can see by referencing the code. So I see it as an insult to our intelligence, an insult to this commission, and reason, this blatant misrepresentation of what the truth is about these. And for this reason, we urge you to deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, and please accept my apologies for misunderstanding your exhibit. I didn't realize that's what you were doing. I thought you were saying something else. Thank you for your comments. Okay, where were we? Yeah, here we go.
Not sure if it's good afternoon or good evening, but either one.
No, it's definitely evening.
Either one. Good evening.
Tell us something different.
Okay. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Captain Abraham Scheer of the Auxiliary United States Air Force Civil Air Patrol. Also, I'm Dr. Abraham Scheer. I practiced in Sussex County for approximately 15 years. I'm a neurologist. I was director of neurology at BB Healthcare. I'm currently a neurointensivist, neurohospitalist for Bay Health System. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a planner. I'm someone with common sense. And I just want to mention a few things that haven't been mentioned before. The first thing I want to tell you is we had a patient, pretty much our age, over at BB Healthcare, who came in with a stroke. And unfortunately, we contacted the other health centers, Christiana and Jefferson, because he needed what's called a clot retrieval, and we had to get him out of BB because we didn't have that service. So at that point, we contacted Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. They sent a helicopter 5 miles away from Philadelphia. It had to turn around because of weather. And basically, one of the nurses went over to the patient's family and said, "I'm sorry, you're stuck here." At that point, I contacted Dover Air Force Base, and I begged them to please send a military aircraft with some type of system that can go in the rain. At that point, they told me that I was crazy. They're military, we're civilian, and he's going to try to help me. He asked me if it's possible for an aircraft to land at Eagle Crest, and I said absolutely. And what ended up happening was an aircraft came from Cape May with 2 propellers, a large aircraft, and they were able to take the patient and save the patient's life. The reason I'm telling you this story is because Eagle Crest, and I live there. I live on Eagle Crest Road. I live at Eagle Crest Aerodrome. Eagle Crest has other purposes that we use in Sussex County. We have an area labeled off for helicopters and for emergency services. Biden landed at our airport. So to say that we're just a private aircraft airport, again, we're a diamond here in Sussex County. And with that said, I want to make you, at one point, think in terms of a physician. I think all of you are obligated to practice preventive medicine. In other words, we spoke about what's called a runway protective zone. Now, the reason that DelDOT is not involved in that, or the FAA is not involved in Eagle Crest, is because it's a private airport. The thing that differentiates a private airport versus a public airport is, can other aircrafts land without permission? And I have to tell you the answer to that is yes. Other aircrafts can land. If there's an emergency, we're on the map that an aircraft can land on our airport. If there's any kind of emergency for an airplane, if there's distress, they're going to go down in our airport. Other aircrafts come and they call us and they're able to land here. So I think it's important to understand that we're not just for personal aircraft. The other thing I want to mention is that when I talk about aircraft going down, I just want to let you know it's never been safer. General aircraft has never been safer. In other words, since 1990, the amount of aircraft that have gone down has been reduced by 50%. But we all have fire extinguishers at home. We all have smoke detectors at home. We all wear seat belts. We all practice safety. So as preventive medicine, I believe with all my heart and soul that there needs to be a runway protective zone protecting the aircraft coming in and going out. The other thing I want to mention, which is really important, is that the statement that they gave was for Georgetown, which was mentioned before. However, if you look at the regulations, the federal government doesn't want to micromanage us. They feel it's your job to take care of our community, and they don't want to micromanage us. But they do say in the recommendations, please follow the federal guidelines. And the federal guidelines ask for a runway protective zone. So as far as I'm concerned, as a physician, and you now that you're practicing preventive medicine, you have to make sure that there's a runway protective zone, a place in the plan that specifically says that safety is paramount. Because if something happens in my business, it's called malpractice. If something happens in your business, it's called a catastrophe. And I'm sure everyone's going to be pointing fingers if something happens, and they're going to want to know how it happened and why a runway protective zone was not considered. And the last thing I want to say is Round Bridge Pole Road. When you talk about the numbers of cars going down, I'm originally from New York City. I don't know if you can guess that. I've been here for 15 years, okay? But with that said, I have to tell you, everyone that comes here, I tell them, go down Round Bridge Pole Road, because there's a nature reserve on that road, there's kangaroos on that road, there's ostriches on that road. It's beautiful. you know? So as far as sightseeing goes, as far as people going down that road, to say that there's that many cars, I don't believe that for a second. Every chance I get, I go down that road when I have to go to Milton. I love looking at everything that's on there. I walk my dog. I go to the nature reserve. I walk along Broadkill Beach. Please, you have to consider safety. And also, you have to consider obstruction. If the airplanes are taking off, we can't have anything obstructed. We want it to be safe in case there's a mishap. And the third thing is, for your own benefit, again, I'm a common sense person, you're going to be getting a lot of complaints about the noise. A lot of complaints about noise. My mother-in-law came to visit. She's 89 years old. She complained about the noise. She complained about the smell. She complained about the loud engines. And she complained about a lot of things. And she didn't know how we can live there. It's not for everybody to live in a community where the planes are flying over. It's not for everyone. I love it. I love it. Okay? I love going down Round Bridge Road. And I'm begging you. My job is to save lives. That's what I do for a living. Here's your chance to make the right decision and make sure that safety is paramount for people that I take care of. I'm sure I've taken care of people here. I've been here for 15 years. I know everyone's mother, father, brothers, sisters. Please, I'm begging you, okay? Consider safety before you improve this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're back on this side now. Yes, sir, come on. That was actually somewhat different. I hope you are too.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet, I hope.
Okay, it's because it's not different.
Got to watch. No. Well, so one thing, you are intimidating. One thing that's different, I'm just a regular resident. I can't claim any credentials, et cetera, et cetera. My name is Johannes Sayer. I live west of Lewis. Hudson Road is one of my access routes in and out of my development. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. So one of the things that was interesting to me was looking at the PLUS review, and much of that was already covered. Several gentlemen referred to how many units were in the 100-year floodplain. Also, the northwest portion of the site is vulnerable to permanent inundation from sea level rise. The historical records show that the forest area in the west of the state, in the west of the site, has existed since 1937. These are presumably mature forests. And the Office of State Planning opposes the proposed subdivision. We hear a lot of public conversation about things that can't change. Further development is inevitable, property rights are sacrosanct, and they trump environmental concerns, as one developer's lawyer put it in a county council meeting. Demand for luxury housing exists, so how can we not provide supply, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing that doesn't change is that natural and municipal resources are finite, and many of them are inelastic. You can only stretch them so far. Sussex County is scrambling to get access to Rehoboth and Lewis municipal sewage treatment facilities. Our roads are clogged, and traffic circles, they're the tail on the dog. All they do is reduce accidents while all those additional cars get on and off the gridlocked roads. While I was sitting here listening to all of this excellent discussion, I did a quick look because I recalled a bunch of media articles in the last 2 years about the vast growth of development west of 5 Points. I count up 4,600 new units, and this is a completely informal scan of the Cape Gazette. I won't bore you by reading through all of them. I noticed that Ellendale is going to have 1,800 new units for a population growth factor of 10 times. It's going to grow from 5,000 to 500 to 5,000. The Granary in Milton Village will add 2,000 units to Milton, et cetera, et cetera. So 4,600 new units. The growth rate of residential housing west of 5 Points is huge. We experience that daily, and I don't need to read the litany of, you want to bring your family here? Don't bring them on a holiday weekend. Memorial Day is right out, right? Forgive me, I don't mean to be impertinent, but what this looks like is Sussex County doesn't have a plan for how it should look in the future. And that does raise the question, does Sussex County government have a plan for how Sussex County should look? Our resources are being overtaxed. They're destroying the characteristics that brought tourists and new residents to this area for decades. And to be blunt, whoever thought of making the coastal strip a location for concentrated development was confused. The effect of the current lack of regulation of development is that coastal Sussex is being transformed into the Boca Raton of the Mid-Atlantic, as a card in my neighborhood has it. It's an extension, it's becoming an extension of the sterile northeast suburban metroplex and its overbuilt beach towns. Do we want that? There is no rising tide here, I'll suggest. The quality of life for Sussex County residents is declining while the property development industry benefits. Sussex County government has a problem to solve to address the needs of agricultural landowners whose land is no longer used for production and thus loses its tax advantage. Selling off our natural resources to be consumed by real estate development is not the way to do that. There have been public statements here in local social media that opposition to development is what's wrong with America these days, but America was founded to create government that serves the interests of all the public. Development needs to be regulated in the public interest, not stopped. I, for one, am not talking about a moratorium. As soon as someone talks about regulation, someone says, oh, you want a moratorium? We can't do that. We'll die. The moratorium's regulated in the public interest. I urge the Commission to deny this proposal. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Janet Leddy Gavel, and Mr. Whitehouse, you have the thumb drive that Sarah left. It's twin Mast opposition PowerPoint. Hello, it's nice to see you all. I'm going to do three things. One, I'm going to give you a visual, so give you a break from all the talking. And two, I'm going to offer some solutions. And three, I'm going to make some points that were missed. One, can I forward that, or do you have to do that?
This one, I can load it up. This one with 31 slides. This one.
Yeah, can you put it on slide 5, because everything before that was already speaking to. So the question that I have is the traffic study was done during COVID. So is that even really relevant? Because everybody was staying home during COVID. Okay? That's number one. I do want to address, because I live on Round Pole Bridge Road. My name's Janet Leddy Gavel. I live on Round Pole Bridge Road. When there's an accident anywhere, everybody starts taking Round Pole Bridge Road, okay? So let me start with my visual presentation. Can I forward this?
Sure, yeah, it left and right on the keyboard.
On the keyboard, yeah.
Okay.
Just the other left and right button.
Some of the items on the staff review that Mr. Lowery did, the answers are incomplete, so I'd ask that you review that. The attorney marked noted or gave a vague answer. And this is just talking about open space with what the code says, eliminating the lots in the floodplain. Okay, so Round Pole Bridge Road, their engineers stated that all of the roads in the development would be to county code. Well, that's great, but Round Pole Bridge Road is not to county code. So that's great that you're going to have a twin Mast and all the little development roads meet county code, but then we're stuck with tar and chip. And then who's going to pay it when the ADT goes up? Us, the taxpayers, are going to pay the $1.3 million to improve Round Pole Bridge Road. So I would ask that a condition be that the developer upgrade the entirety of Round Pole Bridge Road, not just to the bridge. The second solution that I have offered is your staff suggested an entry or exit way on Route 1. There are other developments that have an entry exit on Route 1. Greystone Manor, Fairway Village, Summerlin, Bay Crossing, Sugar Maple Farms, and Sylvan Acres. That way, this whole Round Pole Bridge Road is not even in question, okay? I would suggest doing larger parcels to fit in with the surrounding area and conserve much of the wooded parcel and the wetlands. This is just noting Lock Haven that was denied. So my suggestion is to sell a portion of the county for open space. So the county has purchased Hopkins Farms, 51 acres for $1.5 million, Dawson Brothers, 40 acres for $2.5 million, Dorman Farm Preserve, 13 acres for $400,000. So I would suggest, since this is such a pristine parcel, let's preserve some of it and save some of it and put it in conservation and sell it to the county, because obviously the developer didn't do their homework. They paid $6.5 million and didn't know all these issues existed. So if it's approved as a cluster, there should be conditions. Single entrance and exit on Route 1. Lots 78 to 90 back right up again, Route 1. That's not a superior design. Nobody wants their house backing up to Route 1. So here's some visuals. This is around Pole Bridge Road, around one of the curves. That's my vehicle. You can see the sun. You can see how narrow the road is. This is around Pole Bridge Road, how narrow it is. This is the bridge at Beaver Dam Creek. That parcel to the north there of that picture, that's where this will be, eliminating most of the woods around there.
Okay, let me ask you, we've seen all this, we've all been on Round Bridge Road, Pole Bridge Road, we know the road.
All right, let me show you what you've seen the flooding. This is Hudson Road. Yep. This is Route 1 right there. It's deteriorating. I don't think DelDOT has any plans to improve that. This is Hudson Road again. This is Hudson Road, and you can see the paved asphalt and the tar and chip to the right, which is around Pole Bridge Road. You can see the difference in consistencies. This is Log Cabin Road. Log Cabin Road doesn't have any developments on it, and they are up to county standards with a center line and paved asphalt. Here's another farm vehicle that we see very often on around Pole Bridge Road, another farm vehicle, bikers every weekend, fishermen on the bridge that clog the road with their vehicles. This was taken 2 days ago. This is the school bus trying to navigate the bend with school children on it, coming from Mariner Middle School. The school bus has to cross over the center line to make the bend. That's not safe. That's not safe. And adding 2,000 cars a day is taking our children's lives into the bus driver's hands. And also approve conditionally upon keeping all of the woods as mature trees. Also letting the homeowners know that there is active hunting, which my other neighbor will be talking about, and the buckshot can go up to 900 feet. And see what else I have. The big thing is the DelDOT traffic study was done during COVID. And also, the developers coming in with all these experts, that doesn't remove the fact that it's not viable for this location. It may be for another road that's paved and has proper entrance and exit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so come on up. I'm here, you'll be next.
Wayne Latham. I live on 27949 Round Pole Bridge Road. And just here to mention two things real briefly. One, and I know it's not required of developers, it is for DelDOT when they're doing roads, but an archaeological survey would really be helpful in this property because it's located right between Beaver Dam and Broadkill. If I was a Native American, that's where I would want to live. So there's got to be something there, I would think. But if they don't want to do it, I guess they don't have to do it. I don't think you can make them do that. What is more strange to me, and it's becoming more and more a concern, as I've been in real estate for 42 years in this area, this property and many others are starting to see more and more of this, are being sold without contingencies on government approvals. That used to always be a contingency in our contracts. Before they settled, you got approvals from the people that needed to be approved. This didn't happen in this case. Developers are starting to thumb their noses at the council and the planning and the zoning, saying, you're going to be sued. So every time that comes in Cape Gazette, often, those words, you back down because you're afraid to be sued. It's time that P&Z and the council
I'm gonna stop you right
get a
there.
little bit
Excuse me.
tougher.
Now, well, let's go back to that.
Okay.
No one is afraid of being sued. I'm not afraid of being sued. I've been doing this for 28 years. I know how to do this job without without getting sued. The issue is that the way the code is written, that the subdivision process is a process that doesn't have a lot of discretion to it because of the way it's put together. So that's the real issue. It's not that anybody's afraid. It's just that the law is the law.
I understand it, but that's what they're using now.
Yeah.
And it's no reason that you guys can't get together and tighten that and make it so they can't really use that excuse anymore.
That's that guys that's one step up from these guys. That's that next group.
Well, I understand that, but, you guys talk,
Yeah.
I hope. So anyway, so just asking, you're here to regulate the health, safety, and prosperity of the public. I don't see that happening with so many things getting passed all the time. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do. We couldn't have this beautiful Sussex County if you guys didn't have all your eyes and ears over. I also want to thank my neighbors that are behind me. I live on Eagles Crest Road, and I have never been amongst so many people that I'm proud of, who love where they live, appreciate it, cherish it, and take care of it. I recently saw on Nextdoor someone was complaining about garbage. Garbage in our neighborhood doesn't exist. We all go out there and pick it up even though it's not ours. We love where we live and we take care of it. So thank you. I'm not here as an expert.
Did you give us your name yet?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Randy Shear. I live on Eagles Crest Road, and I submitted a letter. I apologize. I'm one of those that submitted twice because I got an email back, so I put it in as comments, and then it did show up as an email. I explained my thoughts in that letter. I'm hoping everybody will read it. But there are some things I didn't put in that letter and some things that have not yet been said.
They're the ones that haven't been said.
Right. I'm going to be brief because it's not too much. I support what everybody else behind me has said, but I appreciate your due diligence. You require experts, and the builders get their experts. However, I heard the experts on the soil, on the roads, on the traffic. I didn't hear an expert about an airport planner. Now, why am I saying that? Because my sister-in-law is an airport planner. So I've got one at home that I can call up and ask her all these kinds of questions. And it's absurd that there is a building of this size coming next door to the airport. And no one has spoken to anyone who does this as a profession. There are professional engineers out there who do this, and they need to be tapped into, and they also need to be checked when you're building something so close to an airport. So I would beg you to let's do our due diligence. Let's make sure we have that runway protective zone that everyone's talking about, where if we do our due diligence, it's going to come up. You don't need to hear it from us. It's necessary. That was said. We definitely have to have a layout plan. We need to have the airport layout plan so that builders know how to proceed. And what can I say? Thank you so much. I hope you consider all of our words that are very heartfelt. Thank you.
Well, we wouldn't be sitting here listening to you if we weren't. So we're definitely hearing what you have to say. So who's next? All right, sir. Come on. Be something different, and we're going to give you 3 minutes, okay? It's 8:03. At 8:06, we're going to pull the plug.
All right, I'm Brad Reed. I live on Round Pole Bridge Road.
Okay, Brad.
I have a personal stake in the marshland. It's adjacent to the development that's going to go up. There's a lot of duck hunting that goes on there.
Okay.
And it will be a personal loss of income for myself and my brother. We rent that property out. It would be a significant loss. So with the houses across the road, that's already
Just
existed
real quick,
there.
and this won't kind of get you 3 minutes. Do you rent the property where the development's going, or?
The actual marshland that goes, that's adjacent to it.
Okay, all right, just so we know.
The actual wetland.
Okay, okay.
So with the houses across the road, we already have to, the hunters, like I'm not hunting it myself, but when we rent it, I'm not a hunter myself, but you have to aim in different directions now. You can't aim across the road because you got to have 100 yards away from a dwelling. You got to be 50 feet away from a roadway, and they could go travel 300 yards or more, depending on what kind of shot you're using. Also had to add, as far as the soil, there's certain soils that are considered important in the state of Delaware. There's Falixton, Pocomoke, and Easboro. So I don't know what kind of soil was out there, but I would hope that's being taken into consideration as well, along with all the agricultural and all the protected things that's going on with that. I agree with all what my neighbor said. I'm not an expert on the air thing, but yes, I lived on that road 43 years. That's my entire life. So like it's a narrow roadway. I know there's been homes that have been risen or built since I've been there. In the past, the fields, you plant crops, corn grows up, it goes 90-degree angles coming around there. I'm surprised there hasn't been a head-on collision yet because you can't see these blind spots. I mean, I got to walk my dog down there, and at times and this is the afternoon, you got the school bus coming around the curve doing hard right, and I've got to make sure I'm on the shoulder at that time of the year where there's crops in the field and it's obstructing visibility. Along with the flood, you have to go to work. Like I have to go to work. Like I'm a first responder. I have to go to work, and it floods, and you can drown an engine out on that bridge, like literally drown it out. And you're talking about replacing the engine. And I mean that's just part of the problem on the roadway. So I like to reiterate, along with, like I said, I agree with what everybody else said. They both basically said in different various ways. Has come up here, stated my point of views. There's Section 99. There's many sections of 99, like 99, 99C, 3, 4, 8, 5. It's all in there.
Okay.
So I like that on the record. Thank you.
Got it.
Thanks for being a first responder.
Yep. All right, sir. All right, over here. Yes, sir. Well, you'll be next. Come on.
That was my brother that spoke. I'm going to touch on some of the things that he said because they also pertain to me.
Your name?
Brian Reed.
Okay, Brian, you got 3 minutes.
I live on 27084 Round Pole Bridge Road.
Okay.
I've been there as well, 43 years. We're twins, if you cannot tell.
He's a little better looking, but okay.
That's fine.
I'm making all kinds of friends tonight.
It's not a popularity contest. I'm just up here to state the facts.
That's the truest thing that's been said today.
I'm just up here just to state the facts.
That's right.
I'm an educator,
Another
and
minute, too. Go ahead.
I'm an educator, and so that's what I'm about, is stating facts. So as my brother previously stated, as it applies to me, our land, which is the marshland, is adjacent to this property. Our father owned it prior to us. He recently passed. He was 71 years old, so he's had it for like 50-some years. We have it now. I put it in the LLC, or we put it in the LLC. It's also part of the land preservation. The loss to renting this property out would be detrimental to our livelihood, as our Eagle Crest airplane counterparts, sorry, I'm fighting a cold, previously stated that, that they're grandfathered in, like they were there first. Well, we've been here first, too. I know that they got to earn money. We got to earn money as well. They're an LLC. We're an LLC. So we were here. I would not like to see, plus, it's the displacement, as my neighbors have said, of the forestry, agriculture, animals. Also, with the development across the street on Round Pole from this development that will be going in, Twin Mast, I don't know if it's Pintel that's right there, that's has an entrance off of Hudson, but I've seen people who lives in that development cross the field across from it they literally trespass onto this field and walk across it, which I'm worried that will happen onto my property. And as my brother stated, it's actually 990 feet that steel shot can travel from a shotgun that I know duck hunters from my property are using. So this minimum barrier of 50 feet or maybe an extra 25 feet, so now we're looking at 75 feet, is not going to cover the 990 feet. That's not going to allow me to rent my land out anymore.
So how close is your property to? Yeah.
It's right on Beaver Dam Creek. Like if you could pull it up, I could
It's
point
between
it out.
Twin Masts and the creek, actually. It's right there where the arrow is.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
And that's the property that you lease out?
Yes.
They own.
They own that. We own that.
I mean, lease out to hunters, yeah.
We own that.
See that? See that?
And we leased it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, that would be very detrimental to us. And along with that, as part of that land, we also own some farmland that we lease out as well. With the amount of traffic that you're proposing on this no shoulder, like degrading lane, like as my brother spoke, he walks the dog, it's like on the grass. It's not on the road. And the farm equipment going up and down this road, we could lose our farming, like agriculture, lease to that as well, because now we got traffic. And as it's been showed, the tractors take up all the road, and you have to literally park in the grass. The last thing I want to state is from when they were talking about the tidal waters and everything, I have a whole section on here that I researched about that. And it's the Clean Water Action 401 state certification of water quality. And there's plenty of references that I put in here. There's section A, 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can give this to Mr. Whitehouse over here.
There you go.
But just to make it, concise and brief, that's what I have to say about this matter. And in closing, again, like you'd be taking a lot of money from our LLC and our livelihood.
Okay.
So I ask that even if you do approve this, make sure the buffer is with good for us as well. Like 50 feet's not going to cover it. I'm proposing like 1,000-foot buffer and a fence. So people, because they like to see scenic views, are going to trespass into that woods, as I stated, across the farmland, because they're lazy and don't want to walk down the road onto Hudson up to their thing.
Wrap it up.
So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Forgot where we were. Over here. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Drew Mugno. I live at 15221 Hudson Road, and I'm 4/10 of a mile from Round Pole Bridge Road. And I have to read to you a paragraph from the letter that I had sent you. And I'm going to read it right out. I would like to express my disapproval as a homeowner on Hudson Road. I feel that the traffic volume would be unbearable, and these back roads can't handle the volume we have now. Now, you have all been on Hudson Road. You know that that's a shortcut, whether you're going north to work or everybody heading south to go to the stores, to go to Lowe's, to Savannah, to any of those toward 5 Points in that area. So my whole beef about this right now is that everything was talked about Round Pole Bridge Road, but not the opposite direction on Hudson Road and the effect that it will do to the people on that road. Also, I'd like to read to you the beginning of my letter to you. I am a resident homeowner at Eagle Crest Aerodrome and one of the East Coast premium residential air parks. I am a pilot who flies respectfully with the awareness of my neighbors. Having houses right in the path and off the end of an active runway 3214 is unwise and very unwise. This brings into the fact that there will be safety and noise issues for both homeowners and pilots. Emergencies can and sometimes happen. Eagle Crest Hudson Fields Airport has been here since 1952. It should be taken into consideration active aircraft on runway 32 and 14 will be arriving and departing low over their homes, and departing aircraft will be noisy at all hours of the night and day. That was something else that was forgotten. We fly at night too. So potential buyers of these homes should be made aware in writing, and that's the other thing, that they should really know if they're going to buy in that community. Aircraft will be flying directly over, either day and night, and noise and potential danger is to be a known factor. Now, as for the entrance to this community, Round Pole Bridge Road is not the right entrance. Route 1 would be a better entrance. The people from DelDOT, well, they I don't know. Well, the developers should really work harder on having an entrance into there. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody with something different? Yes, ma'am. Family right here. Nope, talking to you. You, yeah, come on up, come on up.
I'm going to remind everybody, it's the quality of the testimony, not the quantity. We are starting to hear the same things.
Yeah, I'm really being very lenient. I know you feel that I'm intimidating and rude and all that, and you're right, I am, I know. I've been that way, okay? But if I didn't, this meeting would be going on next Tuesday, okay? Now, I've been very lenient this evening because you all have been sitting here a very long time, and I don't want to deny your opportunity to speak, okay? But let's not repeat. If you're going to be repetitive, do it in 2 or 3 words and go, okay? There you go.
That's not just you, that's everybody.
That's not just you. No.
It's not repetitive.
You've been very patient and pleasant. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually was.
And your name is?
My name is Jennifer Peasnell. I was actually curious. I didn't submit that I was going to be speaking. So, okay, I just wanted to see if that was.
Yeah, we're not picky. We let everybody talk.
All right. So, as I said, my name is Jennifer Peasnell. I live in the town of Milton, and I grew up in Sussex County. I am a major in wildlife ecology and conservation and a minor in marine studies, so I know a thing or two about the impacts of development in coastal areas. In addition to the environmental concerns this development specifically proposes, I am also extremely concerned about the health and well-being of those who live in Sussex County, especially since this development is directly along a waterway, and it does have a buffer, but it is along wetlands and a waterway. I'm not sure if you are aware, but Delaware has the most polluted water in the country, according to the Environmental Integrity Project report that was released in 2022, hardly a year ago. This development clears almost 60 acres of mature woodland, as we talked about, that borders a creek, a tributary. Ecosystems do not work in parcels. This clear cutting will disturb the other 40 acres of forest and the environmentally sensitive wetlands. Mature forests and wetlands act as filters for runoff, which will drastically increase in this specific area due to fertilizers and just development and the changes in hydrology in general. This impacts the quality of our water, which does harm wildlife, but it also directly harms us and everybody who lives in this area. This water is what we drink from, what we rely on, clear cutting and building along wetlands and tributaries and cutting down mature forest, especially 60% of mature forest. That impacts and harms me, it impacts and harms you, and it impacts and harms every community in Sussex. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good job on concise.
This guy's already on his feet over here. We're going to let him go, and then we'll let you go. Something different, okay?
Hi, my name is Nathan Kingery. Try to keep it brief. I'm also a Sussex County native. I grew up here. Times when I've lived other places, I find myself missing the Sussex County landscape of the fields and rivers and streams and the woods and what it looked like when I was growing up here in western Sussex near Seaford. So I feel emotional connection to the landscape here. And I was talking to my neighbor the other night who, we live on Gravel Hill Road about 10 minutes from here. And he works for Delaware Wildlands, which is a conservation group. And he said something like, everything east of here where we live, you can just write it off. It's done. It's gone. You know, and it made me sad to hear somebody who works in conservation take such a cynical view. But it's not surprising because when I drive toward the beach, you know, every week another field has sprouted a new crop of houses. And so, anyway, that's the situation. And I was thinking about this tonight. As an attorney, I often have clients who want to make an emotional argument about how they feel. And I have to tell them that in court we can only make legal arguments. But I'm going to ignore my own advice and make an emotional appeal to you, which is to look into your hearts and examine your conscience and think about this place where we live and what we love about it and what deserves to be saved. And I think you've heard a lot of good speeches tonight about why certain parts of this parcel deserve to be saved and why we have ordinances that promote that. So that's what we're all asking for, and I hope that's what happens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. You've been very patient. Come on up. And I also hope you're going to be very unique.
Just so you know, I wanted to be last because I wanted to be the shortest. So I'm Pamela Rizzo. Well, I wish I was. Anyway, I'm Pamela Rizzo, and I live at 28533 Round Pole Bridge Road. Okay. So this wonderful development is in my back door. And when I bought my 0.78 acres in 2007, I think it was, first of all, I got eaten to death by mosquitoes. So, guys, you should warn them. That's our state bird.
You need to direct your
well,
comments to the commission. Okay?
Well, just so you know, the mosquitoes are horrendous there. So that could be a health issue unless people are going to spray and things.
Okay.
But secondly, my real concern is traffic because I have to enter and leave my driveway all the time and go out.
47 times tonight, traffic. Go ahead.
You haven't finished letting me finish, and I'll go a lot faster if you don't talk at the same time. So when I come out of my...
talk at all. If you
I can, but I'm just telling you why it is important that you listen to what I have to say, because what I notice is that every time there's an event at Hudson Field, that means everybody's coming down Round Pole Bridge Road, everybody. So now they don't happen real often, and I'm not against Hudson Field because I love it. I think it's fine. But there is a lot of noise from Hudson Field that this development probably doesn't even think about. Air flight coming across my house, because I've been there since 2008, does not always go in a straight line. Okay. I have been laying out in my back area where my pool is, and there's planes going straight across. They fly at nighttime coming in, and you can tell they're hesitant about how they're coming into the airport, because it's not a real normal thing. I bet I've had at least 15 or 20 helicopters in the last, 2 or 3 months that come in. They come in so low that they literally rattle my house. And my house is a pretty sturdy built house because I had it custom built. The other thing that I would like to say is that in taking down all of the mature trees, it seems foolish because you have a mature buffer that surrounds this beautiful piece of property that could be kept as walking trails and open spaces and preserve the wildlife that's there. We have bald eagles that are there that are nested. Maybe not very important because they're like vultures, I guess, but they are our national bird and they are protected. We have Palladian woodpeckers. They are next to the largest woodpecker that there is, and they were almost to extinction in the last years because of development and destruction of woodlands. We have everything we need in this state, and you're giving it away for nothing. They may have paid $6 million, but it is your heritage and your background. I didn't come to Delaware until 1986, but I lived in West Virginia, and I watched them destroy everything we had because of coal mining, logging, and anything else that could make money for other people. And West Virginia suffered, and your state and your county is suffering because you're letting it go. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah, you, different.
Let's go, Joe.
Yeah.
Hi again, my name's Joe Larimore. I live on Hudson Road. I'm the past president of Eagle Crest Homeowners Association. And about 10 years ago, we put up signs, one on the corner of my property, which is adjacent to the runway, one out on the highway, and one down on Eagle Crest Road, showing that there's an existing airport, double signs. The developers never contacted anybody, to my knowledge, to discuss the fact that they were going to interact with us. Pintail Point Development, across the road from us, they contacted me when they were laying out their plan. And I met with them, and they made sure there was nothing in the flight plan. They were not going to build under the flight plan.
Right.
So that worked out very nicely for us.
Okay.
These folks, no consideration. I think it's just time to go back to the drawing board.
Could be.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Armour. Okay, anybody else? You already been up once, haven't you? No? Oh, okay. Well, come on. If you haven't been, you're all starting to run together. We're all starting to look alike.
Thank you. My name is Mark Cammy. I live on 28120 Round Poles Bridge Road.
Thank you.
On that picture there, I'm at the largest curve.
Okay.
I am an expert in nothing that anybody here has been talking about, except I am in the automotive field.
Okay.
And I want to talk about that. 2 cars on the same time on Round Pole Bridge Road does not work. When you increase the traffic, and God forbid somebody gets a blowout, there's a school bus or something else, what is going to happen? When those cornfields are up, you cannot see around any curves. Today, coming here, there was a tractor trailer with 2 dozers on it. I took my pickup truck and I had to go off into the ravine. I can do it. I have a 4-wheel drive big pickup truck. What is a little Volkswagen going to do? Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Okay. Well, that was different. Okay. Anybody else? I was going to say, if he had 2 dozers on
One load, that's illegal.
That was illegal, too. Anyone else? All right. Operator, is there any